Welcome to the magic of masks in Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Bridge, and Adobe Camera Raw. You know, you really don't need a lot of this. You know what a mask is. You know what a mask is. You know what a mask is. But what I'm going to tell you is how you use them in your photo editing. Honestly, a mask is nothing more than a hole or two in a piece of cardboard. And you already know that the holes are what you can see. Through the hole is where you see. And the other part that you can't see through, oh, there we go. The part you can't see through is protected. It can't be seen. That is a fancy party version of a mask, but you already know what masks are, probably from your young age. A stencil. A stencil is a hole cut out of a piece of cardboard. Listen, that's what a mask is. When you see the word mask in any of these applications, it just means a hole cut in a piece of cardboard. Trust me, that's as complicated as it gets. It's a hole in cardboard. Why would I want to use a hole in a cardboard? Why would I want to use a mask? Let me just quickly show you an example. It's simple. You could do this on your own desk at home. There's really nothing to it. Here, as an example, I'm going to make a beautiful I love you box for my beautiful bride. I start with my box, of course, but I'm going to need a mask. I'm not going to draw a heart. No, I'll use one of these off of an old greeting card. Look at all those masks. You can see right through those holes. Perfect. I'll use this one. All right, now I need a little magic. How about a magic marker? Now, of course, you know, if I use the magic marker over the mask, it only draws inside the hole, like any good stencil would do. Well, on my fingertip. There. It's pretty good. All right, now, perfect. And I also have the mask I can always refer to later. I'll keep that. Now, a mask can also be a negative shape. Here, let's mask out the heart or cover over the heart. That way, I don't draw on it by accident. Another color, a little pink highlighter. Right around that, there you go. Beautiful little starburst. Hey, I'm nearly done. You see, the mask can be a positive shape or negative shape. It's the cardboard that protects. The white is the hole. Oh, yeah. I think she'll love that. Perfect. Good example of a mask. They're just stencils. I can always overlay it again later. Use it. Either way, I have my masks saved. You get that? Perfect. Now, in Photoshop, if I were going to do the same sort of thing, I would cut a hole. Now, they don't give you a pair of scissors that cut a hole. There are lots of tools in Photoshop that will cut holes, that will make a mask. For example, the lasso tool, you think it's a piece of rope. No, it's an X-Acto knife. So let me cut as carefully as I can, right? A heart shape using the lasso tool. There, what have I done? Well, I've made a hole in a piece of cardboard. In fact, yes, I have. Every selection in Photoshop, watch as I grab my brush tool. Every selection in Photoshop is in fact a stencil. And you know you can only see what you're doing inside the hole. You can't get outside. Why? Because it's protected. Outside of every selection in Photoshop is cardboard. And inside every selection in Photoshop is a hole. Now I could cut a hole with, let's see. Oh, I'm going to go grab my elliptical marquee tool. And just like we did in the live version, I'm going to go ahead and block out a hole that protects the heart. Now this one doesn't, does it? Because you know if I were to paint with my pink highlighter, it would put it inside the hole. But I told you earlier that you can have a positive or a negative mask. Let me show you what I mean. Right now I have the inside of my circle as my stencil, as my hole. But I could go to the selection menu, the select menu, and flip it, make it the inverse, make it do the opposite, make it behave in a negative fashion. And I do that, and what you'll see is that everywhere outside of the hole becomes my selection, and the hole itself becomes my protector. Just like we did in the live version. That's the fundamental basis of all of Photoshop. So, if you're paying attention and you have a pencil and maybe even a sheet of paper to take some great notes, here's what I would write down as the fundamental basis for all of Photoshop at the very least. Now, I'm going to show you where to find these mask shortcuts and tools in all of these Adobe apps. But we're going to begin where you probably want me to, in Photoshop. Write this down. All selections are stencils. No matter how you make a selection. In Photoshop, it's a stencil. I just used my elliptical marquee tool to make a selection. Why? Because I want to do something inside that hole. Now we're going to fill in what kind of somethings we might do, but maybe what I want to do inside that hole is to lighten or brighten. As an example, here's what you've written down. Number one, in all of Photoshop, all selections are stencils. All right, put your pencil down. I'm going to go sneak up here and just do something to my layer. I'll play with brightness and contrast. Now, if I do that, I'm going to be doing it only inside the selection, only inside the hole. I'm going to undo. Okay, undo. Now, if I want to do the opposite, I'll go to select, inverse. I selected the hole, but now I want to select the opposite of the hole. Now, if you're a PC user, look carefully at your keyboard shortcut, which is listed next to the menu item. You might want to write that down. This is wrong for you PC users. On a PC, it's Shift Control I. Shift Control I. Shortcut for select the inverse. Flip my hole. Select inverse. Flip the hole. Mac users, it's Shift Command I. Flip the hole. All right, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut. You know where to go find the long cut up there in the menus, but I'm going to do Command Shift I on the Mac. I don't see anything any different, but trust me, it's different. I'm going to go do exactly what I did a moment ago. Let's go play with brightness and contrast. And now it's brightening or darkening the outside of the circle. Cancel. So rule number one, all selections are stencils. You can select the inside of the stencil or the outside of the stencil. You can select the inside of the stencil or the outside. You've got both. When you cut the hole, you have your druthers, you have your choice. Okay? We've got to do two things. How do I make great selections? And where do I store them? How do I save them? Now you'll notice I just reached over to the side and grabbed some stencils I used earlier. I saved them. I was wise and I I saved those stencils. In fact, I saved those stencils so that I could reuse those if I chose to. You remember that. Here's the second thing to write down. Are all selection stencils? Yes, but second thing to write. Are they saved? The answer is no. In real life, when you cut a stencil, the stencil exists. It's real. You can use it. It automatically saves somewhere, and you can throw it into the trash if you want. But when you cut a stencil in real life, you have something to show for it. That's not the case in Photoshop. When you make a stencil or a selection in Photoshop, it doesn't automatically save it for you for future use. And you'll want to be a smart party goer and save your stencils. How do you do it? Now, right now you saw I made a big oval, big circle, and I don't have it anymore. It's nowhere in Photoshop. So I'm going to be careful as I create stencils. If I make a stencil, I'm using my lasso to cut a really weird shape. You can see, take a good look at the representation of my selection. To me, I call that the dancing ants. The dancing ants are showing me, they're revealing to me the edge of the hole. Whatever's inside the dancing ants parade is my hole. Whatever outside is protection. Unless, and you know this, you invert it, you flip it. Now it's the opposite. Now outside is what the ants are allowed to eat, not inside. The picnic is protected now, you see. All right, but I'm going to flip it again. I use the keyboard shortcut. Now it's back to inside the ant parade. The dancing ants, they're here. Inside is my stencil. If I were to deselect, look, select menu, deselect, unselect. If I were to deselect, Command D on the Mac or Control D on the PC, I would not be able to get this selection back tomorrow. So let's be wise and save it. Third thing you write down, let's review. Number one, are all selection stencils? Yes. Are they saved? No. Number three, whose job is it to save them? It's yours. Item three, you need to save them. Number four, how? How and where do I go to save them? Here it is. I've been there so many times already. When you're talking about selections, you might in Photoshop want to look at that select menu. It's all about selections. Why is there a whole menu for selections? Because it's the fundamental basis of all of Photoshop. How do you save a selection? Let's look. I found it too. How do you save a stencil? There it is. Because the word selection means stencil. So how do I save one? I do it here. Save. And when you save in Photoshop, it automatically saves a new channel. Yeah, that's not Chanel. That's not even TV channels. That's where saved stencils go. And if you don't right now take advantage and type a name, weird shape, if you don't type a name, Photoshop will type one for you, and it's a very awkward name. I'll delete it and let you see what happens when it generates this new channel. If I don't type, it types, and now I have my channel panel visible. There's a check by it, and there's the channels panel, and I can see my saved stencil right there with the awkward name of Alpha 1. Now I'm not going to click the eyeball. Make a note. In the channels panel, Rick almost never clicks the eyeball. He almost always clicks the text or the thumbnail itself to see the stencil. I didn't click the eyeball area. I clicked on the thumbnail or the text name in order to see my stencil. help me. What's the black stuff out there as I look at my saved stencil? You might want to write this down. You already know it. The black stuff is the cardboard. It's protected. Well then, what's the white stuff? It's the hole. It's where what I choose to do later will occur, will go. If I brighten or darken, it's going to happen inside my selection. If I paint with a purple Sharpie marker, it's going to happen inside my selection. If I invert it, it's going to happen outside my selection. I know some of you right now are going, oh, this is so basic. Oh, contraire. Hang with me. This is the basis of advanced Photoshop, Lightroom, Adobe Bridge, and Adobe Camera Raw editing. I want to make sure you understand the fundamentals. All selections are stencils. Work with me. This is an awkward piece about Photoshop. I want to go back. I want to stop looking at my stencil now, which is what I'm looking at, and I want to go back and look at my artwork. They're not the same things, right? My stencil was used to generate my artwork. They're not the same thing. I don't want to see my stencil anymore. I want to see my artwork. I don't want to see my stencil anymore. I want to see the artwork, okay? Stencils aren't artwork. They're used to generate the artwork. Where's the artwork? Layers. Layers are the artwork. How do I leave my stencil? How do I stop looking at my stencil and go back and look at the artwork? Grab your pencil. Click on the top channel name or thumbnail. Don't click the eyeball. Click on the thumbnail or the name of the top channel. That's called your composite channel. When you click that, it takes you back to viewing your layers. You're looking at your layers. You're no longer looking at the stencil. You're back at the layers. Now you can go back and forth with the same simple trick. I would like to see my stencil. Click the name. I want to see my artwork. Click the composite. That's how you do it. Stencil, composite. Stencil, composite. We're almost finished with lesson 1. But before I cut you loose, be certain, after lesson 1, you go watch all the bonus videos. In the bonus videos, I'm going to unpack where you actually find the masks in Photoshop, in Lightroom, in Bridge, in Camera Raw, quickly. In future lessons, weeks 2, 3 through 4, I'll show you exactly how to use each of those, but I'm going to introduce you where masks are found. What do you need to get out of this week? All selections are masks. All selections are stencils. Is there a difference between stencils and masks? No. It's just a big word for stencils. There are lots of big words for stencils. If you were an airbrush artist, you would call stencils friskets. A frisket is a stencil. A mask is a stencil. I'll unpack more of that in the bonus videos. Okay? Right now, you don't know what to do with them, except that when you make one, you want to save one. You know that when you make one, you can paint inside it. If you save it, you can paint inside it again in the future. That's smart. You got to be in the habit of doing that. Be disciplined. When you make a selection, save it. It's smart. Why would I save it? Because you might want to use it again. That's how you save them. Now, before I wrap up lesson 1, last major tip. Well, how do you take your stencil and lay it back on your existing art and use it a second time? I saved it, but now I want to use it again. You would think you'd pick it up like I'm doing and lay it on top of the artwork, but that would be too easy. And in Adobe world, nothing's as it seems. It's not that easy. You can't just pick up the stencil and drag it on top of the artwork like I did in real life. It doesn't work that way. So I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. Unfortunately, the first one is not very direct. We're going to look again at the stencils panel. And I can load a stencil. Load a selection. Which one? Which one did you want to load? Alpha 1. Alpha 1. That dumb name? Really? Seriously? As a new selection? And it comes back. So you can reuse it again. I'm going to do Command or Control D for deselect right now. Deselect. No ants. I just bug sprayed. There are no ants. Let's just show it to you again. How do I load a stencil and use it later on? Load the stencil by name. It comes back. If you save this document as a Photoshop document, it also saves all the stencils with it. If you save it out as a TIFF, you'll have a choice. It's not automatic. If you save it as a JPEG, it will get rid of your saved stencils. If you save it as a PNG, a PNG, it also deletes your stencils. So be cautious. If you're going to continue to work, it behooves you to save a master Photoshop document. Last piece of lesson 1. Rick, there's got to be a more direct way than to sneak up to the selection menu and load the selection and pick the selection and say okay. There is, in fact, a more direct way, and we'll unpack it more in the bonus videos. Mac users, you're going to hold your Command key. PC users, you're going to hold your Control key and simply click, not the eyeball, click the thumbnail or the name of the stencil. Click. That's the direct way to reload a stencil. Command or Control D, deselect. I want it back. I Command or Control click the stencil by name in the channels drawer. The channels drawer is where stencils go to be saved. They will all be waiting for me in that drawer. You're learning nothing new from now on the rest of this video. Here I go. Command D to deselect. Command or Control click to load it. Deselect. Command or Control click to reload it. That's it. Well, end of lesson 1. I think I'm going to save my Photoshop document. If I save it as a PNG, I'm in trouble. It's going to go away. If I save it as a JPEG, I'm in trouble. It's going to go. But if I save it as a Photoshop document, save it and close it and open it next week, next month, next year as a Photoshop document, you know that your stencils will save with. All right? Hey, watch the bonus videos. End of lesson 1. Just want to let you know, every week on Thursday, yours day, I will answer all of your emails. I will talk about any sample files you send to me. I'll record a live, not live, I will record it while I'm alive, but I'll record it live on that Thursday, and I'll send you all the links to everybody's answer for their emails and their sample files. I'm not going to leave you hanging. You're not out there by your lonesome. Test these techniques now. Test them. Look at the bonus videos, take good notes, test what you learn. Then jot me an email, send it out to me at rickburris@gmail.com. If you'd like to send me your Photoshop docs, I'll take those too. The bigger, the better. The problem is you can't email me those directly. They're too big for your email, but you can always Dropbox to me, or iCloud to me, or Google Drive to me, or any other number of large file senders. Okay, if you want to send me the big file, which I would love to see, send it to me in that way. I'll look at those. We'll share those as a group on Thursday, yours day, and I'll answer any questions you have about selections or your images each week. All right? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for trusting me with your mind, your time, and your creativity. I want to thank Brian F. Peterson, the great Brian F. Peterson, for giving me this opportunity to record this series of videos for you. There's nothing else like this anywhere on the internet. There is no course for all of masks in all of Adobe's apps. This is it. You're the first. Thank you. Watch your bonuses.